Hello and welcome back to AP World History Modern. Today we're going to begin our first day with Unit 2.1 Silk Roads, focusing in on economic systems, looking at concepts like does trade build cities or vice versa. All right. Our learning objective is explain the causes and effects of growth of networks of exchange after 1200. So our daily five today isn't really any questions. We had our first unit test yesterday, so I just wanted to go through what the scores are and test corrections and whatnot. So I guess first off, the grade that is in your grade book already has a little curve to it. All right, so when you get your scantrons back, you'll see what your raw percentage is, but they are already curved. Right, so at least to a degree. You can get an additional extra credit, or if you want to call it an additional curve, that's fine. But there's an additional extra credit that can be earned through test corrections. Test corrections are not required. All right, not required. And I'm just going to stop what I'm doing and add that right to the list. Not required. All right, not required. So if this is something you want to do, then you can. If you are content with what your grade currently is on that test, then by all means, you're welcome to. You're welcome to keep it. I do highly encourage it, though. All right, so you can complete them until the day of the next unit test. I don't like kind of blending multiple test corrections. It's just too much to juggle for me. So you have until the day before the next unit test, right? You usually get about 2 to 3 weeks in order to complete the corrections. You must complete them in my classroom. This is because of an agreement that I signed with the College Board in order to be able to have access to their questions, right? So I get to use their test questions, their newly released ones, right? All their questions, and in exchange for that, I promise to not let them out of my personal sight and possession. So it's an agreement with the College Board. That's why you have to come into class in order to complete them. I'm available Monday through Friday in the morning from 7:45 until 8:15. At 8:15, I'll kick you out. Because you got to get to class. All right, so but 7:45 is a good latest. I'm often here 10, 15 minutes earlier than that. But 7:45 is if I'm running late in the morning, or my children are running late in the morning. After school, I'm available Wednesday through Friday, right? Wednesday through Friday after school, from 3:30 until about 4:10-ish. There are going to be days where I'll have personal obligations where I cannot be here. Like, for example, I have a dentist appointment tomorrow, so I will not be here after school for that. So if I'm not here, there's no test corrections. If there's a meeting with a parent after school, I don't create my schedule. Guidance creates my schedule. So I will notify you on Google Classroom that there'll be no test corrections that day, that morning, that after school. All right. All right, what do you do? What are test corrections? Test corrections mean a lot of different things to a lot of different teachers. So I'm just going to let you know how mine work. All right. So when you come in, you'll have your Scantron already. And I will post the correct answers for the multiple choice. So figure out what you got right. Figure out what you got wrong. All right. For everyone you got wrong, you're going to write down the question and you're going to write down the correct answer. I'm not going to make you explain why it's correct or explain, why the one you put was wrong. I'm going to assume that you are a mature student, and if you don't understand that, then you can ask me. Right? I'm here for that. If there is a passage associated with a question, I want you to write the passage in the source information. If the question asks you from paragraph 1, then you only have to write paragraph 1 in the source information. Right, so whatever passage is associated with the question. If it doesn't, then you got to write the whole. If it doesn't say in paragraph whatever, then you got to write the whole passage. Right, if there's a map associated with it, you got to draw the map and write down, label it appropriately. If there's a picture associated with it, you got to draw the picture. Stick figures is fine. I just want to be able to recognize what it is that you're drawing. Right, so if you understand why the answer you put is incorrect and why the correct answer is the best answer, then move on to the next question. If you don't understand, please ask me and get an explanation. I am literally going to be probably sitting at my desk and you're going to be in my room because it has to be done in person. So just ask. This is the reason why we do this, right? We do this so that you can, right, you can figure this out. I'm going to explain that in a minute a little bit better, right? You also have to finish, right? I don't give partial credit for test corrections. In order for you to get the points, then you need to actually finish it. Otherwise, I'm assuming you're just coming in to see what you missed and maybe work with a couple of them to get a better understanding of it for your benefit as a student. But if you want the extra credit, you gotta actually finish. What does that mean? That means don't procrastinate, right? So with very few exceptions, if you are not done, I don't care if you if you were planning on getting it done on the day before the test, if something comes up, then that's a good life lesson to not procrastinate. So come early, get it done. All right. All right. Why do you do them? All right. Why do you do them? First off is to learn from your mistakes. Right. Develop a better understanding of how stimulus-based multiple choice questions work. And then, of course, to improve your grade. All right. So I get that these are challenging. Right. These are not like the first two tests that I gave this year, especially that Unit 0 test. Those questions that I gave for my Unit 0 test, those are designed for sophomores in high school. They're at a 10th grade reading level. They are basic recall questions where you're just being asked to recall information, or they're information where the answer is in the documents, right, the stimulus. That's not what these are, right? These questions are written at a college level. They're not your traditional recalls. These are application questions. Right. The general thought here is that when you walk into that test, you know and understand the material in the textbook. You know and understand the material we covered in class. Right. That is the expectation. You're being asked to apply it. Right. So remember those skills you looked at over your summer assignment: causation, comparison, CCOT, right? Sourcing. We dealt with in that first couple of weeks. Those are the kinds of things you're being asked to do. Right? Apply knowledge, not recall knowledge. So they are challenging. And because they are challenging, probably more challenging than any other multiple choice question you've ever had in the past, I curve them initially, right? So what's in the grade book is already curved. And then I allow a second curve, right? So, and I apply this for students who 100% complete the correction process, no partial credit to be given. I will do this. I will do this when probably when you're taking the next test. This is not a process I enjoy, so I try not to do it all the time. I like to kind of do them in pretty large batches. So for the most part, I do them on the next test day. So if you get it done tonight, which I will have a student or two get it done tonight, don't expect it to be in the grade book until the next test. Okay. Who knows? Maybe I'll get an early batch where I want to thin it out, but don't expect that. The square root curve, right, which I'll show you in a second, this does provide a proportional increase on the grade based on the original score. So to kind of show you what I'm talking about, this is what the square root curve looks like, right? So how does this work? Somebody who has a 95 in the grade book, they're going to come in. They probably missed 1 to 2 questions, depending on the test, right? Maybe 3 to 4 on a larger one. They're going to come in. They're going to knock this out in 10 to 20 minutes, and they're going to be gone, right? They're not coming in for the points. They're coming in to learn from their mistakes, right, and how they can improve. Somebody who got a 45, right? You're not going to be coming in for 10 to 20 minutes. You're going to be coming in for maybe 10 different sessions, depending on the test. Probably not this one because this was a short test, but on a 45 question test, then yeah, you're gonna be spending some time if that's what you're coming in for. But they're gonna get 20, 22, right, out of this. So it's a proportional grade boost based on based on your score, and of course the amount of work is proportional as well. All right, but if you kind of look at this, like someone who has a 55 in the grade book, remember that what's in the grade book is already curved, right? So this person got less than half of the questions correct, right? On my regular unit stimulus-based tests, you can get less than half of the questions correct. Come in and do the test corrections and get a C. All right. You say that again. You can get less than half of the questions correct, complete your test corrections, and get a C. The hope here is that you'll learn how to work with these documents and why the documents are part of the question, and you'll understand that relationship better between the stimulus and the questions, and you won't get less than half of them right or correct consistently. Hopefully you'll improve and you'll see improvement over the course of the semester, right, and the year. All right, so, or if you're shooting for that B, you can get two-thirds of the questions correct, miss one out of every three questions, and still get a B, right, with this square root curve, right? So it's a pretty fair, in my opinion, it's a pretty fair curve considering it's already curved once, and these questions are challenging. I acknowledge that, and that's why I offered this. Okay, all right. And I will, if you have questions, let me know in class, okay? All right, so let's get into Unit 2, Networks of Exchange. And I just did a brief intro because I did also go over our project that we have coming up. So there is a project coming up. I will post that on Google Classroom by the end of the day today. So if you have questions, you can let me know. All right, so we didn't go over a lot today. We just did a real basic introduction. Right, so in Unit 2, it's a lot of the same players, right? A lot of the same players. Just Unit 1 was focused a lot on governance and basic culture, and we're dealing a lot with economics and diffusion in this particular unit, right? So, but yeah, same basic players: Song Dynasty, Srivaya, Swahili city-states, Mali, right? Abbasid to start with. There's a lot of the same players. And of course, there's a very well-known new player here from this region of the world. All right, so in class, we talked for just a few minutes on identifying who they are. It's the Mongols, and what their impact is. All right, we looked at this real briefly, just, kind of made the point where now that we are done Unit 1, there should be a lot of familiar information on this time grid. This should not be foreign to you like what it was on the first day that we looked at this with Unit 1. All right, so hopefully House of Wisdom, Abbasid, Song, Heian Japan, Crusades, Ghana, Mali, Djinn Aruba, Aztec, Inca, these things should all be reviewed. Angkor Wat, Khmer, Srivaya, these things should not be foreign to you now. Right? After Unit 1, you should recognize who these people are, right? And hopefully you should know something about them. If you do not, then these are things you need to review. All right, so then we'll be adding some things as we go along, like Black Death, right, with Unit 2 in Zhonghai. All right, so we'll be adding a few things throughout this unit. All right, so Silk Road. So today we're going to talk about the Silk Road, and there is a decent crash course video on it. I would highly recommend you watching it. I think there's a link to it on my Google Sites. As far as the Silk Road, we've mentioned it already in class, but not a lot. Most of what we talked about was we mentioned Chang'an, Qin Dynasty capital, Han Dynasty, but we really talked about Chang'an kind of being pushed to the side as the Tang Dynasty, and then later on the Song Dynasty becoming more kind of Pacific Ocean facing in their economic activity. So we've seen like an economic shift of, right, kind of the center of gravity for economics in China had shifted from the Han era to Chang'an over to the coast, right, Huangzhou right? Kind of a more seafaring trade. So that's how we've kind of talked about China so far is, its connection, the diasporic merchant communities in Malacca and its integration into the Indian Ocean trade. During this time period, though, from 1200 to 1450, you are going to see 150-year period where this all changes. With the collapse of the Song, the rise of the Yuan dynasty under Kublai Khan, you're going to see the Silk Road rise to prominence again. All right, so that's kind of why why we look at this again, right? So, and there's a very important city that we're going to just look at a little bit today called Samarkand. Samarkand, can you find it on this map? Probably not because it's not there, right? But it is on this map, right? Samarkand. It is so you can see Kashgar on the previous map, just to the west of this, right? So Samarkand is a Western Silk Road city, and as a Western Silk Road city, what kind of cultural influences would you expect to be there, right? So we've already talked about this part of the world in the year 1200. What is the cultural influence? What is the religion? Right, so hopefully you remember that is Islam, right? So in class, once you kind of identified that and kind of went through Samarkand and Kashgar and the kind of basics, right, about spread of religion, spread of which kind of technology that comes across these trade routes. Once you kind of really breathe through of that, and then just kind of other kind of examples of cultural diffusion, we watched a little video in class on Samarkand, and this is a great video. This is from the Vaga brothers, and they are they show you some really nice imagery of Samarkand. So we watched like the first maybe 10, 12 minutes or so of this in class. And it's definitely worth watching. I will post a link to it on Classroom and on my Google Sites page. All right. So that being said, all right. So please watch that video. It'll talk a lot about Islamic influence in architecture. It'll also mention Genghis Khan, and how he destroys the city. And then it also then talks about Timur or Tamerlane. So one of the direct descendants of Genghis Khan, who then rebuilds Samarkand, and that becomes his capital, right? So Timur or Tamerlane. So pay attention to those specific parts. All right. So that is all for today. Besides watching that video. So key takeaways. What promoted growth on the Silk Road? This is something we're going to get into with our homeworks. Is security, right? So, but new practices, which we'll talk about tomorrow, like the Caravan-Sari, the things that we've already talked about, things like paper money and bills of exchange that were common in the Song dynasty, and then also the Abbasid Caliphate with the bills of exchange. The Silk Road, a couple things to keep in mind. It is a relay trade, right? People aren't going all the way from one end to another. Very few people, right, would have known the full extent of the reach of the Silk Road. So goods are simply passed down lines, changing hands numerous times. All right. So that is all for today. Sapriati.